Welcome to Don't Do Stupid Shit to Your Body on OMTimes Radio with inventor, author, engineer, and rebel Gail Lynn. Gail has over 3 decades of solving her own health mysteries and then helping thousands of others find a better quality of life through sound, light, frequency, and vibration. She has witnessed countless stories of people harming themselves, some resulting in death, just because they didn't know any better. Her hope is to educate people to be more discerning and critically think about the sources of information being researched, as well as products and modalities being used to determine if or how they are biased and misleading. Don't Do Stupid Shit is inspiring, honest, authentic, and unapologetic. Listen now to laugh and learn from Gail Lynn and her guests as they discuss how to be more discerning with healers, energy modalities, what you put into your body, and, most importantly, to listen to your body. Here is your host, Gail Lynn.
Hey everyone, welcome to another show. So in my typical fashion, I'm going to tell a joke to get everybody laughing, just to get started. So a man goes to the doctor and he says, Doc, I can't do the stuff around the house like I used to. So, you need to do some testing with me and tell me what's wrong with me. So the doctor does the heart testing and the blood pressure testing and a urine test and a stool sample and a stress test, and comes back in the room and he says, the guy says, you know what, doc, just tell me like it is. I can take it. Tell me, in plain English, what's wrong with me. And the doctor says, well, you're lazy. So he says, okay, now can you tell me the medical term so I can tell my wife/partner? All right, so there's my laugh for the day. Just kind of lighten things up a little bit, guys. I always get nervous getting the show started. So today I have a super special guest. All my guests are going to be special, but this is super special. Dr. Dana, he is, and I don't even really remember how I met him, but he's been very influential in my life. He is a true energy worker. I was seeing him as my doctor. He's a doctor of osteopathic medicine, DO. And let's see, I've spoken at his class at the osteopathic medicine school. He was a teacher there. Let's see, I've gone to him for energy work, learning about heavy metals in my body. He was also one of the doctors and healers that helped prototype test the harmonic egg when we started. So super influential. When I got in my car accident, I went to Dr. Anglund because I have a posterior ponticus, which is an extra bone in the body. So there's more of me to love. And we're going to be talking about love today. So more of me to love, but I can't get the crack forced adjustments. And so Dr. Anglund is such a beautiful healer, and just the slightest little touch of his hand and you can feel the energy flowing, and he can pick up so much. You guys, I'm just so impressed with him, and I'm actually taking some of his classes online. So without further ado, we'll hear from him and how to reach him and all that by the time the show is over. So welcome, Dr. Anglund.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gail, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, can you tell us how you got here? So you decided to go to medical school and you made the choice to be a DO and not an MD or a naturopathic or a chiropractor. And then you've come all the way to what we're going to talk about is the root of everything to heal is love.
Yeah, it's true. The funny thing is, you're asking, how did I get, looking back, it's a perfectly straight shot, but going forward, down, backwards, corkscrewed, left, right, center, it was nothing. It didn't make any sense. I was originally planning to be an MD. That was my path. And through lots of different things along the way, nudged in this direction, nudged in that direction. And I like to tell one of my clinical rotations in med school totally changed the world. I took an integrative medicine elective. and I wouldn't do that at all. And I was with this doc, and I thought, oh, this will be neat. Who knows what's really going to happen, but I'll just kind of be there. And I was absolutely blown. First and probably only place in all of my medical training that I saw people walk out well. And I said, that is what I want to be when I grow into medical school. Even when I was shifted over into osteopathic school, I still didn't know all the things and understand all the things. So it's integrative doc, and he just opened my mind to a lot of different ways of looking. And from there, it's just been a journey of seeking truth and trying to figure out what's going on. And it turns out it really back to love. And I know sometimes that sounds a little trite. I mean, oh yeah, love is everything. That's great, da da da. But until you frequency of divine love and you watch a body change just by being in the presence of divine love, you don't understand. Like, absolutely the most powerful thing that we have available to us. And it's free. It is abundant. It is inexhaustible. And we can tap in anytime, anywhere. So that is my key to healing right there.
Well, I absolutely love that, pun intended. And I know ever since I've met you, I have always felt like you were the type of person that doesn't even get upset about anything. And I know you probably do. But for the 10 or so years that I've known you, you're always so balanced and so calm and so loving and such a high vibration. So just always had a lot of respect for that, because, I'm not that way. I have my ups and downs. And so can you give us some examples of how we could live in love? And what is the difference between, like, I know you said divine love versus love, and I'm sure you have something in your head that is the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot there. I'll start with, am I always for the case, Gail? But I think you bring out the best in me, so that's why you always see me. That I do try to be balanced as much as I can. And the differences between the different loves. So I'm just going to go into teacher mode for a second, because I love to teach. So in the language, there are 4 different words that we use in the English and concepts. One is like familial love. Like, I love my mom, I love my brother. They're part of my family. They're familiar. There's not really anything more to it than that. Like erotic love, I mean, it's eros, right? So, for your part, like, you have that connection on a different level. The next one is more brothers in arms kind of situation. Like, we say brotherly love, but it's brother. It's like, no, you are my brother. Like, you are. I talked to my friend, like, the familia, like you are like right there, and that's that love, or brothers in arms kind of love, where it transcends a lot. Love is the last one, and that is the pure, unconditional love. For my relationship to you, it doesn't matter what you do or don't do. It is there, and it is always seeking your best, and it's also taking you into your best. And so it's kind of that exactly the way you are right now, but I'm not going to leave you that way. It's that love that encourages development. It encourages expression of what's best. But even if we say, you know what, I'm not interested in you just the way that I am right now, that unconditional love doesn't change. It'll encourage you to force you to evolve, and there's no quid pro quo at all. So that's kind of the difference, the overview. When I say divine love, I mean it is the love that is at the why the universe exists. It's why health exists. Mode and the route for us to evolve into of ourselves.
Well, so kind of what I thought it was is like unconditional love, but we also know there's no conditional love. But people will put a tag on it. So divine love, maybe unconditional love. Bill Tiller had a saying that he said love is the universal solvent. And so when you think of a solvent, is it dissolves all other substances. So I would say that that kind of plays into love is, the root of all healing. And if it's the universal solvent, then it can dissolve disease and illness and things like that. But I can only kind of give you an example of animals. So I had a doctor that I worked with. His name was Dr. Steve. He's passed now, but he was really an angry, nasty kind of a guy. And when I met him, I knew I had a lot to learn from him. So I kind of put up with some of that stuff. But I remember saying to him, why do animals and children heal so fast? It seems like you put an animal's picture in an energy modality and all of a sudden they can be healed, or a child. And I remember him saying to me, Gail, animals and children only know love. And if we only knew love, we could heal so fast. And I had to look at my phone to make sure that this was really that same doctor that I thought was really not a nice person. But have you seen that as well with, children? I always, want to bring it back to children and animals, because if we only knew love, I think as adults with all the baggage, we could heal so fast, but we want to say, oh, what does that person want from me? And I can't trust that person. And I've been screwed by that person. And that happened to me with all of our baggage. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. I actually just got back from the Dominican Republic. A group of friends and I went and we treated kids at an orphanage. We got disrupted during COVID, but one of the principal work with there is that exact fact that the kids, they don't have those separations. They don't have what we call compensations. Like we compensate the world connected 100% to divine love. We come from divine love. We come through land in this place that has divine love in it, but isn't saturated. And so when we start as kids, we're like, hey, everything's love. And, we're so fluid and we're so transparent. And, kids can about anything. And, part of that we say, oh, that's just physical because, they have all that. But really it's because they're so connected and in that frequency that whatever comes along, they're like, well, I can make the best of this. And they just kind of adapt so quickly and so easily. And so when we level, and in esoteric osteopathy, we call it the meeting place, where I don't go and make a connection with a child, or I come and invite them and allow them to invite me in, and where they're just shining forth that perfection all the time. Parts and pieces maybe get a little bit out of balance. They can't, and that's what we call growing up, unfortunately, for most of us, is we stop shining as brightly, and we lose that sense of perfection. It's still in us, but it's not shining through everywhere. And we kind of say, well, I guess I can do this thing that's kind of close, and we make this little compensation on, and then the things that we call, old age are just the collection of all those and really returning to that place of perfection which is that highest about like, what's the vibration? What's the highest vibration? The highest vibration trying to get back to. And so I think that's why we, especially because they have such a strong connection to that source. And animals, like, they don't care taxes and politics and jobs, and like, they don't care about any of that. They're just like, I am with this vibration that is nature, and nature is just at that same frequency, that same vibration, and they're just bathed in it. Although I think that's why it's so easy for kids and for animals to shift so much closer. They don't have to like, oh yeah, I remember what divine love feels like. I think they're just like, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that with my horse. She is so loving, and I know that they love us so much. And we'll go to the autistic community as well, how much love that they have. And for them to, need love to function on this earth, we need to integrate more love onto the planet for them to function, more easily. But I just listened to a podcast by Susie Miller, and hey guys, I'll be interviewing Susie Miller May 10th on the show. So pop in for that. But I noticed that with my horse, we had an incident with her where she was kicking the wall at a boarding facility, and everybody was getting annoyed with her, just kicking and kicking and kicking. And I finally hired an animal communicator. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago, before I really understood all the energy. And it was at a time where I was very angry, and she was processing that anger for me and just kicking the wall and just kicking. And she was actually, her ankles were swelling up. I'm sure that's another term for, I'm going to call her ankles. They were swelling up, and I didn't realize. And so the animal communicator said, you have to leave your shit at your car door when you go to the barn, because she's picking up all that energy. Just as Susie was mentioning, that the autistic kids, they feel with their eyes, they hear with their eyes, they see with their ears. I mean, they process information, and they have a different emotional structure. And so she gives an example of a boy that was just banging his head against the wall. And Susie was able to tune in and say to the parent, how are you banging your head against the wall? And as soon as the parent had the aha moment, realized, oh my gosh, I'm banging my head against the wall with this situation or that situation. So her child, with all the love that he could muster for her, was trying to process those emotions for her. And I know my sister's cats, they're having some issues in the house, and you can see there's issues in the house with the people, and the cats are expressing that. So just such a beautiful expression of love and how they support us and love us. Do you want to comment about that? Have you seen some autistic communities?
Absolutely. So the autistic children, the autistic people, they are, and they remind us what we could be in a lot of ways. I know early on in the kind of the evolution of what is going on and trying to give it a name and all those things, there was a lot of belief that the spectrum were unable to connect, were unable to feel. We understand, we being the larger medical community, I mean, those of us who are connected, the larger medical community is realizing it's not that they can't connect, it is disconnect. They are feeling all of the things all the time, and they are stuff and all of their stuff and all the neighbor stuff and all the stuff off the TV, like it's hard. And as you might imagine, that's overwhelming. A lot of pets and other animals can do that too, where they're just, and they really absorb a lot. And I want to really talk in context of love, because a lot of very well-intentioned and intentioned people, very well intentioned healers will do that will absorb, not just accidentally, but on purpose. They'll take other people's junk side, and it takes a lot of training and very stability and energetic awareness to be able to transmute that. And so people who do that really, really well are most usually called shamans. Transmute that energy, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But I just want to out to my empaths out there, those people who like, I feel everything and I always take everyone's stuff on. It's not that you're wrong or broken. It's because you are amazingly empowered and gifted. If you let that stuff accumulate in you, or you don't have the knowledge or understanding to train, you can get really sick or really hurt very quickly. And I know it's in the business, like we've either done it ourselves or we know people or animals that have done that. His dog like developed all these tumors and we could not figure out what it was. And this poor baby, the negative energy out of the house. There was just so much strife in the house, and that and all of that stuff and trying to transmute it, and I even caught my dog trying to do that one day, and I'm like, it's okay. That's not your job. You can just be here. We love you. Even if you don't, and I kind of had to re-educate her. Like, you don't have to take all that stuff on. That's not for you. So the solution, because we talked about the problem, the solution, divine love, and it's recognizing that I don't have to bring anything in already there. I just have to bring the awareness of divine love to whether that's to the energy or to the person or to the environment, or just bringing the awareness consciously. It's kind of like, oh yeah, here's divine. Let's pay attention to that instead of paying attention to the junk, and then up its energy and it does its own thing. So that's a big for those of us that are big feelers and we suck in other people's stuff. Like, I don't have to take that. I love, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Maybe in a minute or two, we can talk how we can go through that process to protect ourselves. But it's really important.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's part of the reason why, let me make a note here. We want to go back to that so we don't forget. It's part of the reason why I created this show. And I know some people think, oh, don't do stupid shit to your body, Gail, you're being negative. And, the reason why I wanted to do this was because I love people. And I watched my parents, pass away from medical error deaths, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And I want to teach, I want to inspire, I want to bring people onto the show like yourself to help people to realize what they don't know and how they can know it. So my dog in 2008 passed away from a liver tumor. I've had issues with anger my whole life. And I know, he's 14 years old. He was a Husky Malamute, so he had a good life. But I know for a fact that he absorbed a lot of my anger, in those 14 years. So I honored him and I thanked him. And I just see this happen a lot. And when you talk about the healers, I think that's one of the big things that they admit that they do stupid shit to their body is they take on everybody's energy. And I know I'm guilty of it. So I can't wait to hear, we'll have a commercial break in a little bit, but hear about the protection. How can we protect ourselves? And you'll talk about some of your classes. I'm loving your classes because you bring a different thought process to how to, do muscle checking, and, how you really don't want to muscle check when you're angry or you're in fear, because you're not going to get the proper answer. So why don't you talk about that as well? But I have been to many healers where I walk out and I've got their anger. I don't need any more. Their fear, their concerns, their sadness, and, no matter what we think or believe, it's all energy. And you can take an acupuncturist can flick their energy into you through the needle. A chiropractor can put their hands on you, and a chiropractor was working on me, was going through a divorce. And lo and behold, I left crying. And it was his sadness that I took on. So as empaths, we need to not do stupid shit to our body by taking on other people's energies. And so there's
Exactly
just,
right.
yeah. So do you have a story of somebody, and before we go to commercial break, do you have a story about to give an example of that?
Experience. I was at a class and we were all learning, and this one lady put her hands on me. Felt fear like that. I've never felt fear like I felt, and it was just this over of impending doom, and I knew it wasn't mine. And I'm just kind of like, okay, like the teacher's here, he's not going to let anything bad happen. And like we went through this whole process, and then it just fear. And then she said, oh, that was such a great treatment. And I'm like, the junk in me, and then pulling it out.
It's amazing how we take on other people's energies, and I really, I've enjoyed working with you over the years, because I also want to talk about how sometimes we can have physical ailments. That I remember working with you with a client / patient, and this patient of yours had Lyme disease, and I remember that. Okay, let's go to commercial break, and then we'll pick this back up. So here I'm trying to manage my time. So go ahead, Chris. We'll go to commercial break, and then we'll come.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back. I just like saying that, so. And I'm still getting in my groove about this. So we were just talking about how healers do stupid shit to their body by taking on all the other people's energies and stuff like that. But I was also just acknowledging a relationship that Dr. Anglund and I had. He had a patient, and it was my client, and she had Lyme disease. And Dr. Anglund said, well, she doesn't have it medically anymore, but emotionally she still does. So that's another thing, that another layer of the onion that we peel off, that we have physical ailments that we get rid of, but we still have PTSD, whatever people call it, that we're still living in that fear. And I had that when I had migraine headaches. So migraine headaches for 23 years. And sometimes I'll look outside and it's really bright, and I look away from the sunlight and I see that aura that reminds me of the aura that I would have before a migraine. And I jump right into the fear, even though I haven't had one for almost 15 years. I do egg sessions, I do energy work, and it's just really hard. So I think you want to talk about, don't forget, we're going to talk to people about how they can protect themselves as if they're empaths. But can you walk through your curriculum that you have for Divine Still Point, and how you can cover some of these areas if you want to take some of your courses, because they're brilliant.
Thank you so much for the glowing endorsement. I did. I would love for everyone to go online to divinestillpoint.com and sign I have the whole full master course package together. That's everything that except for the advanced stuff, but you have to do this stuff first. And then it's also, if you're like, well, I just really want to focus on the energy body, or I want to focus on divine love, or whatever you. And then I also put a discount code just for your. So Gail 323 is our discount code, 10% off. Commercial part is out of the way. Let me explain to you why it's important to go through these processes. So first, I look at 5 bodies. There's lots of different ways to break. So there's the physical body, the energy body, mental body, the intuitive body. Okay, and you can use Sanskrit names for those if that you prefer, or bodies or 3 bodies, whatever makes sense to you. That's okay. But we just think of a mental injury. I have a that can manifest with physical symptoms. Okay, and that makes depression, right? If I have a belief I'm not good enough, and that could manifest as I'm tired all the time. I don't have an appetite. I can't really move my body. Maybe all of that stuff can come from that belief I'm not good enough. Act out on the physical level. Say, oh, your energy's low. Let's give you some caffeine. Your back's hurting. Let's chiropractic or massage or osteopathic medicine, whatever. And we kind of hit those. Will definitely help, but they won't get you to where you want to be, because we got to look at where is that one fulcrum around which your whole system is organized. From the mental body, that's where we have to introduce our treatment. So that's great with homeopathics, and other people are like, they don't do anything for me. Or some people are like, oh man, oils, and other people are like, yeah, they just smell pretty, but that's all, because they're hitting different bodies. So if your issue is on the intuitive body, then homeopathics are great. They also can work on the energy body too. And energy, they hit both of those really well. But if you have like a mental, don't usually quite get there. Sometimes they will, but not usually. So I know I'm just kind of like dumb. The point is, we got to find right where the root of the issue is, and that's where harmony. So I have a belief, being an osteopath, I have a belief healthy and to heal itself. And it's always going to do the best that it can, given the bad news is that it always will sacrifice long-term service. So again, if I can't survive today, it doesn't matter what's happening. So that makes sense. But also my conscious brain would like to, as well as short term, right? So that's why we need healers to help us get back to the plan. So what I'm looking for is, what is your body doing right? What's your body doing right? If you have a belief structure that says I have to suffer, then it is right for your body to manifest symptoms of illness. You have to suffer. That's the best thing that it can do for your health, if it's that belief. So it's not that your body's broken. It's not that it's doing something wrong. It's given the parameters. So we want to go in and change the parameters. So we find that place, that still place around which your system is organized, that little spark of perfection that's inside of it, that little spark of divine love, and then love that's in the whole being and in the whole universe. That's it. It's legit. And you will be amazed at how it's like your system's like, oh wait, oh, I like real perfection better. And then it just relaxes into perfection. Like goes, because our bodies want our whole beings want to be as healthy as we, but sometimes we have a few little hiccups along the way. So it's really focusing all of my attention, or the vast majority of my attention, in, and then I put a little bit in the wholeness of my patient, because I don't want to break. And then a tiny, tiny fraction, I notice that perfection that's inside the thing. And that power of divine love is just going to come right through. And it's going to make the change at the right time, at the right rate, with the right, I don't have to worry, or am I, is this too fast or is it too slow? Like, it knows, because it's connecting the perfection that's in you to the perfection that's in all of creation. And for gentle, it's super simple. Legitimately, anybody can do it. And you've got, your 5 modalities that you love to use. You can use those divine love through the perspective of divine love. It'll just take whatever you're doing, and you're like, I want to be a healer, but I've never really done anything. I just kind of like intuit it and feel it out. You can use divine love just by itself. And it's super patient or client. It's also super safe for the practitioner, because as a practitioner in this section, I don't have to bring anything of yours into anything of mine. We are all from divine love. So we just go to the source. We're just, hey, live creation together. And then you do what you need to do over there. I'm just going to help of divine love for you. That's all that I have to do. So I don't have to take anything on. Do that kind of accidentally, or we do it sort of unconsciously. Just the conscious, find the divine love in yourself, and you connect from the divine love in yourself to the other person. And you start off with, easy scenarios. Don't go like, oh, I just went to like there was an earthquake and I thought I'd help and I'm going to go practice this for the first time. Like, don't do that. Easy. And just find that perfection inside of you and connect that to the perfection in the other person. Important part. Don't make any other connections. You don't have to, you can be, I am sympathetic and I know how terrible it is, but I don't have to feel it in my own body. Because from the perspective of divine love, anything that's not divine love, like, oh, that's ugly, that looks awful, I'm sure that hurts, right? I can see it, sense it, without bringing it into me. So staying in and with protective for me as the practitioner, and it's also protective for me, and it's also the mode that makes the healing work. So it's like a deal, man. It is everything you need. I am not even joking. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love your passion. And you said a couple of things that I want to cover. So the vibration of supplements and oils can also make a difference. So somebody might say, oh, that smelled pretty, but it didn't do anything for me. Don't discount oils to help you. Just tune into, maybe the vibration of that frankincense isn't for me. Maybe they have some toxin or some chemical that they process that with. And I've noticed that over the years with testing silver products. It's a big one. We've tested silver products. We test the integrity of the company, the integrity of the manufacturer, the integrity of the owner. We test the absorbability, the toxins, and we also test the vibration. And we had a silver product we recently tested. And I said, of the general population, what percentage would be helped by this silver? And it said 70%. I'm like, everything else tested off the charts. So then I said, okay, of my harmonic egg clients, what percentage of them will benefit from this? 97%. Mind blown. Realize that the vibration of this silver is so high that the general population who lives in fear and anger and hate and guilt and shame isn't going to benefit from it because they can't absorb that vibration or energy of it. So I wanted to say that. I know you're shaking your head because you totally get it. But, a supplement, you walk down
Absolutely.
Whole Foods, the supplements, there's all these supplements for the general public. I will muscle test my little brain out and everything's a no, a no. I'm like, well, I know I must need some magnesium. I mean, come on. But nothing on the shelves I'll test positive for. So
I have everything, right? Of course it is. So Divine Love will bring out God. So if you are a super low vibration person, for whatever reason, your genetics are terrible, you're emotionally a disaster, Divine Love can meet you right where you are. You're like, oh man, I am like a 12th degree yogi and I have been meditating for this. Like Divine Love can meet you there too. And it's cool because as we get into love and let it do what it needs to do. But the other thing that's really super awesome is you can supplements with your food, with your environment. You can resonate Divine Love to eat. You better believe on a Friday night there is going to be a margarita in my hand, and it's not going to be organic, biodynamic, locally sourced, built with love. Like it's just with those people, but there still needs to be a margarita. So what do? We resonate divine. We bring up its vibration so that it is harmonious with me. And I do this and with my organic salad and with my, my bone broth, you best that thing can muster. And it also harmonizes with my harmonizing with Divine Love. So, I mean, it sounds like it's the miracles or whatever, but it really is. Like it'll do just about anything.
Well, and it's funny you say that because clients used to come in and say, well, you say on your protocol after you do a session, eat well, don't drink alcohol, drink lots of water, take your electrolytes, all these healthy things. But I remember a lady saying, well, every evening I have a glass of wine with my husband when he comes home, and that's how we bond. And I said, then do it, because you're doing it in love. You're not doing it to just get blitzed out drunk and just stupid. And so I say, do what, if there's something negative or bad, like your margarita, do it in love. And I think it changes everything.
It really does. Sometimes we like to play around with stuff like that, and we'll give each other like, okay, here's some wine. It's a biodynamic winery, and like he made it and whatever, and we're like, okay, try this, and I'm like, okay, now try this. Oh, that one's way better. What did you do? Like, is it, because we never like, is it a different wine? Because we know we're like, no, I gave you the same wine, but we resonated Divine Love, and you're like, oh, it tastes totally different. Even something that's super high vibration, it'll feel totally different.
So then that brings me into, I was going to go into love versus fear, but I don't even want to bring fear into this conversation. So I don't think I'm going to go there.
Perfect love casts out fear. And that is so true. Let's just talk about it and we'll get it out of the way. When you're tempted to be afraid, you just go right back to love. Whole pandemic thing that we had, and like viruses are they love to come in where there's fear. When you just harmonize and resonate with love, don't have a chance. Fear doesn't have a chance. All you have to do is just be in love. And it and one more little thing that I want to say about that. Sometimes in our communities, we like to talk about like good emotions and bad emotions, or feelings and bad feelings. And I really got away from that because I realized like higher and lower vibrational energies, but there's a time and a place for everything. If I hear that like some person is like abusing children, I agree about that. I don't want to stay in anger, but it's appropriate to have that reaction. Saber-tooth tiger starts chasing me, like I'm not going to be resonating Divine Love in that manner. The reason why we have fear, it is a protective mechanism, but if it's not from a proportion and all those things, we just don't want to stay in any of those things. divine love with your whole being, then when you have anger, it's like that. And when you feel fear, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a check. Something is legitimately not okay right now. What do you know? And you can really be in those spaces and not be overwhelmed by them. I like to tell people, like, you're feeling wrong, you're feeling bad, your experience is what it should be or whatever. Like, I don't like to put that on people, that negativity. Where you're at and raise your vibration. You know, do you have a reason to be angry? Maybe like you have isn't harmonious and your system is angry because it knows that it could be harmonious, and that's super frustrating, and that comes out as anger. Okay, well, let's get anger, but we don't also want to like just discount it. You know what I mean? And I know you don't do a lot of those vibrations people. They'll kind of like, they'll kind of like on certain emotions, like they're wrong or something. And they can be, but they don't have to be.
Well, and I talk a lot about my anger, but also my anger, I feel like, is a gift. And it's for me to step back and say, okay, if I'm angry, what do I have to change in my life that is making me angry? Not superficially, but really at a deep level. So recently I got sciatica pain, and, we can talk about this after the show, but it's blocked emotions. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah, buddy. I love it. Chris will love it because Chris loves jokes. So he's probably chuckling at that. And so sciatica pain. So I thought, okay, I usually get something so that I can teach, because I will fix it. And then I get to teach and educate. Yeah, Chris says he is laughing. So I get the sciatica pain and I'm like, what the hell is this? What's the lesson here? And I always listen to my body, and I try to teach people, listen to your body, because ultimately when you don't listen to your body, it can result in death. Even if you stub your toe, if it's your right toe or your left toe, there's a message there. 3 people fall down the mountain skiing, one breaks their neck, one dies, and one nothing happens to, so there's a message there. So the sciatica, I came up with the messages of, anger. And so I was looking at the anger, and, I do say it's pain in my ass all the time. And I think I just manifested that pain in my ass. And it is like my horse kicked me right there. I'm like, oh, and it stays. It's painful. And I don't deal with pain. I haven't had a migraine for, I guess, 15 years now. And so pain is not part of my life. So it got my attention. But I think it's blocked emotions. Instead of taking muscle relaxers and all kinds of like pain pills, I'm going to bring love to that pain. It's only been a week. It'll be gone probably by next week. Bringing love to that pain, doing some stretching, some exercises, and trying to process these stuck emotions. So you can definitely relate to that. And let me go back to one more thing, because you will still want to do your protection. Tell us about the protection. But during the pandemic, as you said, the Gayatri mantra, they had done some testing, and it said that it was actually helping with the virus. And so at a deeper level, what is the Gayatri mantra? It is love. It is gratitude. It is appreciation. So it's like fear is feeding it. Love is killing it. That was the end of my messages. I'm like, cool, stay in a place of love. And we just recently recorded a Hawaiian piece of music, which we've been blessed by a Hawaiian kahuna for an egg piece of music. It's called the chant, Hawaiian chant for harmonic egg. And it's the Ho'oponopono, as you know. It's about love, gratitude, appreciation. And so this piece of music is really infusing the harmonic eggs with so much love. So, yeah. But anyway, I could talk for another hour. I just got the, little 7-minute mark. So tell us about this protection, how to protect ourselves as empaths.
All right. So why don't we, we'll just go through a real quick, short version of the practice here. So what I want you to bring your awareness to that place inside of you that can never be broken, hurt, and can never be sick. That is the perfection, and it's inside of every, and it's just always there. And sometimes, the outside, but it's always there. So just know there's a place inside of you that can never be hurt, can never be sick. And that's where through you and manifesting into the world. Some people call that the divine spark, call that the image of God. Some people call that the energetic midline, but that place is always resonating with the frequency of divine. When you find that perfection inside of you, then you can just connect with the divine love. It's coming through me. It's not coming from me, it's coming through me. Right there. And then once you realize what that frequency is, you just connect from that in you to that same frequency all around there. And then I connect from that place in me of perfection, universe, to you. And when I stay in that is my protection. Because I don't have to pick up anything else. Come into that is just going to be transmuted into that same frequency. Protection is the perfection that's already inside of me. That's really what it is.
So protection is the perfection. I love it. Well, when I'm taking a couple of your classes online, and I realize that, a lot of people do muscle checking, and a lot of people they stake their life on this muscle checking stuff. And I watch people muscle check in a place of fear or emotional, should I break up with this guy or girl? Should I, this and that? And I just think if you could give us some tips. I remember my office manager used to water the plants by muscle checking. And it was the funniest thing in the world. Oh, this plant wants water. This plant wants water. Clearly that plant is dying. And she said, well, it doesn't want any water. I'm like, it's dying. Well, it says it doesn't want any water. The funny thing was that I carried the dead plant out to the dumpster, and there was a spider in there. It was the spider did not want to be washed away. So, they weren't talking to the right entity or energy when they were asking the question. So can you just, I know we have, maybe 3 or 4 more minutes, but
2 minutes.
Some tips on muscle checking.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love muscle checking. I use it for as much as I possibly can. It has been valid and over. But the things you have to be aware of is, what is my state receptive? So if I'm in fear, if I'm in anger, what's the best way to poison this jerk? Okay, that's not the right thing. How you ask the question, you want to, like you pointed out, you also want to make sure that you're asking the right source. So if something versus if I ask the universe something, I may get a very different answer. I go to the source. I go to the creator of all that is, the uncaused cause, God, whatever, the uncaused cause, the source of all that is, and ask from never been wrong. But that doesn't mean I can always hear correctly. Coming back to that place of perfection inside of me, if I know I'm resonating divine love and I know that I can rely on my muscle checking. If I'm not, then it gets screwy.
Yes, and I have muscle check. Do I need this chocolate? Yes, I do, because I really want it. So we can convince our minds of anything that we want or don't want. Okay, so as we wrap up, can you tell me or anything come to mind where you have felt the most love?
The most love. That's a hard thing for me to say. Places and moments in my life where I connect and I'm just like, wow, I am absolutely, just recently when we were in the Dominican Republic, and here we are trying to minister to these kids, and you're just on the same frequency, and these little kids are like these supernovas of love, and you're just like being held by this. I don't have to hold it. That's definitely a big one for me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I know I get it a lot from being in places of the land like Peru or Indonesia. I get that, really love. So tell people tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Yeah, if you go to my website, divinestillpoint.com, or you can do stillpoint.com as an email, get right to me. And then we can chat more about divine, use it to heal yourself and others.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'll have another great show for you next week, or not next week. We do the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. And so I'm looking forward to your feedback. Let us know what you thought about this show, and blessings to you all. And thank you, Dr. Anglund, for being here.
This show is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or treat any diseases or illnesses. The information presented within cannot substitute the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare professionals. The content of this show is for educational purposes only and is the expressed opinion of the show host and guests.